Those aren't pillows.
In a new film by John Hughes. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to Hugh-Vember, and happy Thanksgiving if you are celebrating. Have some good food, tell your loved ones that you love them. And if you're not celebrating, well, I hope you have a great day, and similarly tell your family that you love them. You never know how long you're going to have them. But to celebrate Hugh-Vember, there is no real better movie to talk about when talking about John Hughes or Thanksgiving than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This was released in 1987. It stars Steve Martin and John Candy, and pretty much this is the John Hughes movie, the John Candy movie. This is the Thanksgiving movie. It's become a bit of a tradition for a lot of people. However, I am with someone who has just watched it for the very first time. It's my tag team champion partner in Why We Love Horror Trivia, Eric Moreno. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's very funny to watch this movie for the first time because for one, we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving that much here. Like, there's some restaurants and places that do celebrate in case, like somebody from the USA comes to visit us, they want to celebrate it. So we do in that way. I'm aware of the holiday. It's not like I'm outside of the world. But yeah, Thanksgiving. So usually, if I don't celebrate that much of Thanksgiving, I don't really do a holiday movie watching for this holiday. We don't really celebrate, so it was fun to watch this movie that everybody talks about as the quintessential Thanksgiving movie is, and it's fun to talk about it because it's a good movie.
Well, chances are, if you all are watching this, you have seen this movie more than a few times, so reciting the plot is going to be rather superfluous, but to make a very long story short, it tells the story of a man named Neil Page, played by Steve Martin, who needs to get from New York to Chicago to celebrate Thanksgiving with his family. Sounds simple, right? Well, no. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And then on top of all of that, he runs into a door-to-door shower curtain ring salesman named Del Griffith, played by John Candy, and he is annoying. At least for the first, few scenes. But as the two go through this misery together, they quickly form a strange sort of bond/friendship, and the two end up respecting and liking each other by the end. So, Eric, I'm glad I have you on. I love talking movies with you just in general, but I'm glad I have you on because I've seen the movie a bunch of times, and this is your first time, like you mentioned. But you've seen most of John Hughes' work, and I was like, oh, clearly he's seen this. But I'm like, oh, no, he hasn't. That's very interesting. So just generally speaking, what were your overall thoughts? What did you think?
So I had a little bit of an expectation out of at first at the beginning of the movie. Like, it's very different from all John Hughes movies. Most of them are the ones I really know about. So this is starring adult characters, which is odd. So not your usual teenage angst, I guess. I guess I was expecting more. I mean, at the beginning, there's a little bit of shenanigans and then a lot of shenanigans by the end, which I really appreciated. It was odd hearing a lot about the movie, and to be honest, I didn't click with it a little bit, but I got my own issues, as I told you before. Before we started, like, it took me a little bit to click because I find myself in not usually that situation, but if I ever find myself in the situation, and Neil Page especially finds himself, I just would hate it. And it takes me a little bit to laugh about it. I'm just worrying about him, like, God damn, I found this guy annoying. And it's John Candy. I'm familiar with John Candy. I obviously love him in other movies like Cool Runnings, for example. He mentions Jamaica in this movie, so I find that funny before he ever started in Cool Runnings. But to be in that situation, I've been on a plane. I'm sure a lot of the people watching have been on a plane, including you. It sucks to be stuck with a person who's like that at the beginning, and then finding out he was the person who stole his taxi. Like, oh, this man is really mad, and I cannot laugh about it. I sympathize with him too much, and I hate that for me. And I'm sure, but I'm very happy to see him eventually. Like, besides the humor, I think their relationship is the thing that stuck with me the most. I think eventually they find themselves in a very odd way sharing their trauma about the traveling. It's funny in a sense, and they laugh about it eventually. At the beginning, not really. and that's how you connect with the movie as somebody who didn't grow up watching the movie, which I think is a very different experience to somebody who seen the movie like 1,000 times, knows it by hand, like you do.
Yeah, and this is the movie equivalent of adversity makes for strange bedfellows, because in another situation, Neil Page and Del Griffith would have never met, and this would have never happened. But they did meet, and it did happen. And one thing I do appreciate is that the movie just goes. Like, there's no pacing issues for me whatsoever. Like, it starts like 2 days till Thanksgiving, and it's just a straight shot. Like, from there, from the moment Steve Martin looks directly into the whites of the eyes of Kevin Bacon, there's no slowing down. And in a normal movie, it would be like the drip feeding of the, okay, Dell's doing a little thing and a little thing and a little thing. Is like, it's just adding up. But then it's the day from hell. And just, they share this motel room, which is awful. And then finally, like, it just explodes. And normally this explosion would happen near the end. But here, it happens at the end of like the first third, where one of my favorite movie quotes of all time, the "have a point. It makes it far more entertaining for the listener." Like, that whole thing. And then John Candy's excellent monologue where he's like, "I like me, my wife likes me." That whole thing happens in the first third. So I appreciate that they didn't like waste the time with the whole like they're gonna break each other's necks at some point, right? And they don't physically like hurt each other, but there's the whole promise of an explosion that is like it's gonna happen near the end. But no, it happens like 30 minutes in, 25, 30 minutes in.
I mean, I guess you can say that's the one explosion that happens. That there's a little bit of an explosion a little bit later, and
Especially on a highway.
yeah, that. Talk about an explosion. Uh, uh, like it was very satisfying to me. Like I was starting to guess how much is going to take. Like it's not like this is why you cast somebody like John Candy in that type of role. He's technically very annoying, but he's very charming because he's John Candy. So you technically understand why he keeps up with him. He means well. He invites him to the motel. Like, oh, you come with me, and I get you a room. They have to sleep in the same bed, but still, his intentions were good. And then he starts to be really annoying and like with the sounds and all that. So that's very cathartic to me. Like, oh, finally, you tell him off. But it's a very inspired choice to like both take him off, but the movie doesn't take fully Steve Martin's side. But it was very satisfying for him to finally say it. But the movie, I'm guessing the editing or the director's choice is to cut to what's his name, Dale Griffith's face every once in a while he's getting yelled at, and you can see the pain and maybe the discomfort and Dale Griffith's side in his face, like like on a sense, Neil Page is justified, but on the other hand, oh, you really feel for John Candy, and that's the basis of the relationship of the movie, that why it works so much, because like at that very start, like, oh, he's a person too who deserves to be treated well. He just happens to be a little bit I don't what's the word I'm looking for, like he doesn't realize when he's being annoying. I guess for lack of a better word,
he's a little unorthodox, and
yeah,
he doesn't really have a ton of like awareness. I think, I'm sure there's a technical term, but he means well, but unfortunately in certain circumstances he overextends himself, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
yeah, of course. Like that's the way that the movie works for me in a sense. That's when it started clicking for me. Okay, he's not. This is not about him just having to deal with him. It's about growing to like to, in a sense, like each other. I guess they are. Yeah, as you said, like they are through adversity, they become strange bedfellows. Like they have to work together anyway, because a little bit later after that they get their money stolen. So there's only so much they can do on their own, which is very funny when he tries to later let's split up because we're keeping each other like held down. And then as soon as he leaves Del Griffith, we get another big catastrophe happening to him with the rental car, which is the leads up to another big explosion, which I'm sure you can talk about with us more.
Yeah, and it leads to just a phenomenal scene where just Neil Page just completely tees off on, and I don't know this actress's name, but it's Grace from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like Grace, like her. Like she's just doing her job. He's like, "Is there anything I can help you with, sir?" And he's like, "The first thing that you can do is you can wipe that fucking smile off." And it's just he completely just goes to town. I can't do it justice. I'll put clips right around here.
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. A fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
And then he's like, "What can you do about that?" And then she just goes, "You're fucked."
You're fucked.
It's so good. I can't do it justice, but that scene is so incredibly funny. And then earlier in the movie, when after the big fight has happened, they're in the same bed together. They wake up and Neil's like, "My hand is up between these 2 pillows." I'm like, "Those aren't 2 pillows." And Steve Martin's reaction is just so priceless. He's just like, he can't believe where his hands have been. And then they just like, "You know what? I'm just gonna go like take a shower over here." And like they don't want to talk about it, but
isn't that the same? If I'm not forgetting something, is this after that like, "Oh, you did catch the game" or whatever? Like,
I mean,
they
how can you
part of the
talk
joke
about
is they have to they gotta reinforce their masculinity in a way. Like,
Hey,
"Oh,
you
you gotta
see
talk
the
about
game
sports
last night?"
right
Yeah,
away.
I
Like
was-
that's so genius about the scene. Like it's not just them being afraid of that. Their reaction is just, "Oh, gotta talk sports. Oh yeah, I'm a man. Remember, I'm a man." Pretty much that's the joke.
Definitely not.
That was very
Definitely
funny.
not gay. But it's just that whole bit is so funny. Steve Martin just going off on Grace from Ferris Bueller's Day Off is so funny. So don't get it twisted. This movie is legitimately really funny. There's also some really good dramatic stuff in here as well. And the movie, John Hughes had a really good thing for balancing, like knowing when to be funny and knowing when to be serious, and not necessarily crossing the two. Like there are some moments that could borderline, but not really crossing the two. When the movie does get funny, it's legit funny. When it does get serious, it's incredibly serious. And I appreciate that.
No, I like how they set up that kind of stuff very subtly. Like, "Oh, you got a wife that loves you and a home to go back." Like earlier, before that scene, before the big reveal. I guess it wasn't a big reveal in that sense, but because it's not like super. I guess it's very subtle in a way. Like they don't really expand to it because, and in a way, if you think about it, it kind of explains how he's a little bit socially awkward because he doesn't really interact with people a lot more anymore. Like he knows how to talk and everything, but he tends to talk a lot because he doesn't have somebody to go home through, and that's kind of how it clicks for us and for Neil when he makes the realization, oh, he doesn't have a home to go to the Thanksgiving. So that's maybe why he does the kind of stuff he does. He just has I don't know. John Candy plays that scene really really well. At those moments, like he's just for such a comedic actor with a little bit of a bigger reaction. Like he does some amazing face reactions the whole movie. Like that flashes of the we'll get through it because that's the whole scene. I really really like the whole car crash incident, the whole road. Like that scene goes crazy, and those reactions he's trying to drive on his own, like that's doesn't have to do much, but just be like this and try to drive with his legs. He's just very funny as a physical actor. So his face is very, I guess, underrated in a way for such a beloved actor. It doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I agree. And like in that whole car chase, it goes surreal for a few minutes because you see John Candy like turn into the devil for like a hot second. And it's just like from Neil Page's point of view, you're just like, I am in hell. Like this is hell that I am in right now. And it doesn't spend too much time on it. It's like the Flash. And it's like, if you missed it, you missed it. But if you noticed it, good on you for noticing it.
Oh, that whole scene is just goes crazy, like from the very beginning. Like it's a very classic comedic styling. It just set up some things and watches them blow up a little bit later. Like that scene, I think before he ever gets stuck, he throws his cigarette to the back of the car, and you just know that's gonna do something terrible at some point. But before that, he gets the whole jacket stuck, and then you kind of realize, but you don't really pay attention the same way they do. They are in the wrong road until the car from the other side is, you're going the wrong way. Oh, they must be drunk. They, like, and then just the trucks also show up before that. Like, oh, this is gonna blow up. At some point, it's gonna blow up, and then they kind of get scot free in a way until they didn't, and the car gets on fire. And that whole scene is very well set up because also very early in that scene is when he puts the wallet on the what do you call it, glove compartment, and that's just oh, that's gonna mess up the whole thing because they already didn't have any cash. Now the whole credit card gets screwed up, and that's when they lose it, and they start laughing about it before before they get to the hotel, the last hotel they stayed at, gets a motel. That whole
Mhm.
scene is genius. I just love a comedy of errors. That's very funny. That's I guess the peak in comedy for me in the whole movie.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then, kind of what I've been talking about with these Hugh-Vember reviews is that John Hughes, kind of going back to the whole comedy and drama thing, I feel like in a lot of John Hughes's movies, there's some darker tones that he doesn't bring up a lot, but if they're there if you're like really there noticing them. It's not the darkest like John Hughes movie ever, but like we said, with John Candy's character's wife dying before the movie starts, and like there's some subtle hints of like Neil Page being a bit of a workaholic and like not being there enough for his family. Doesn't waste too much time on that necessarily, but I feel like there's a lot of deeper things going on, kind of similar to stuff like Breakfast Club and Uncle Buck, like I've covered here on the channel recently, where it's not in your face about it, but if you know where to look, you'd be like, I did not know that. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, like that's something that really helps like develop the world around the movie. Like you can tell these people have a life outside of the movie. Like that's something we take for granted in a lot of movies, and this is one of those where like you can tell right away the kind of person they both are in the beginning, and the kind of lives they live through. I mean, we don't know a lot about Bill Griffith beforehand, like the same way we do with Neil Page, because we see his home life and all that before. I mean, not specifically him in his home life, but there are people expecting him. We don't know that for sure about Dell until later when we know he doesn't. But that's I mean that really helps with with the comedy in a sense, I guess. In a sense, if you want to look at it as I'm stressed for them, but I laugh with them or at them, I don't know. That's why I probably wasn't clicking. I just kind of related as soon as it started and him in the meeting, and the meeting it just gotta get by 6 to the plane, and the guy is just looking at the magazines. That come on, get on with it. Like, and you
Get
just
on
know,
with it.
yeah, like Steve Martin is really good. Like I don't know if you've seen The Jerk.
No, I haven't.
So in The Jerk, I don't know why I started with The Jerk. That's not my point. Like he plays more of a goofy side, but he's also well known for being the straight man in a comedy. Like in this one, he's definitely the straight man. He's the guy dealing with the reactions. Then, but as soon as he explodes, he's very funny. You were there to talk about when he tells him off, and then with the lady, but also when Dale is explaining, like I put the card, like I took the card because I thought you put it that. Why would I do that?
But another good Steve Martin one is in Father of the Bride. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, the first
Yeah.
one, where he goes to the grocery store and is like why are there 8 hot dogs and 10 buns, and like that whole like the monologue that just lands him in jail. It's like you said, Steve Martin is there to react to people, but when he goes off, like immense. It's immensely entertaining, like near every time. And I feel like in a lot of ways, he's kind of underrated in that department. I grew up with watching the Cheaper by the Dozen films, which I know are not his best films. I'm well aware of that, but I grew up with them. I have a certain nostalgia for them. Like both Hilary Duff and Tom Welling are in them, so like I'm like childhood right there. So like he's really good in it. So I'm not familiar with like his earlier stuff, but I'm like aware of like his current gen stuff like Pink Panther and Only Murders in the Building and this obviously and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen. I don't know what came first. Part of the Ride is after this one. I'm pretty sure, right? The after Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I want to
Which
say.
one?
So Planes, Trains, and Automobiles came before Father of the Bride. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
Father of the Bride was 91.
So yeah, so unless I'm forgetting an earlier movie of his, I would think this movie is the one where he's set up as the straight man in this type of comedies because that's one of his strengths as a comedic actor. Like I'm guessing from The Jerk until this movie, he was more of the crazy guy in a sense. But I'm
In a
not
weird
a
way,
Steve
yeah.
Martin historian. Yeah, but like it would make sense. Like he plays really well to John Candy's sensibilities. Not that John Candy is super crazy now that I think about it. Like he's technically a little bit more goofy, but he's the same way as he does. He's just a little bit more positive, I guess. He finds the funny side in things, which is also very charming about his characters because after I'm guessing this is my first watch, so I don't know, but I'm guessing in many rewatches you really appreciate his dramatic side because now that you know from first beginning the movie again, what's the character steal is like. Oh, okay, that explains this and this and this. So I'm guessing if I really enjoyed it this time, I'm really gonna like it when I rewatch it, which I'm guess is very rewarding as a movie that you watch each holiday every year.
Yeah, once you understand like the full like it when you watch it for the first time, it's kind of like a tapestry where it's like you see it from the back and like you go forward, you're like, how did we get here? And then you see it being knitted together and you're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it benefits like when you know where it's going to where when you watch it again, you're like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. It benefits with rewatching it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like as soon as I the reveal is on, like I remember him taking out the picture of his wife to have on the side of his bed, which is not something you would do if you will see your wife like every time you come back from travel, unless you're really really a wife guy, which is fine if, if somebody is. But like, oh, okay, that explains that, and I'm sure eventually I'm gonna find out a lot more if I rewatch it. Something very funny about Dale is that he's not really like a dumbass in the sense that Neil thinks about it, because that scene when he's selling the shower rings as earrings is just very funny. Like he gets a lot of really good lines. I like when he sells it to the little girls and, oh, that really makes you look 18 or 19, and then they immediately give him the money. Like, oh yeah, of course. He knows how to sell it to everybody, which shows that he is really smart. Like he's, even if he's a little bit awkward and a little bit like lacks self-awareness, he is a really good people person in a sense that Neil is not really. Like that's kind of fun how they complement each other in a way. That's how they make it through that whole ordeal. Because I gotta say this, very satisfied with the planes and the automobiles. Not enough trains. I hate that. We really
There
only get one small piece of train.
we get a train near the end with the subway when we get to
Ah, that's true.
Chicago.
I didn't think about it. But trains, I'm lacking trains. A lot of automobiles. A great automobile scene, great plane scene. Not a lot of great. There's a lot of automobiles. Not a lot of train. I guess the train is for the dramatic stuff of the cathartic. The train. Oh, now that I think about it, the train represents them splitting up in a sense, because the first time they take a train, they split up, and then the second time they take a train, they were also supposed to split up. But oh, I'm gonna take back the train to meet him again, and now we can take the train together to go to my house. Ah, you
Right.
made me look at it another way, so that's
Exactly.
good.
But as far as my score, I'm giving this an amazing grade. It's one of the best movies John Hughes ever made. It's one of the best John Candy movies, one of the best Steve Martin movies, one of the best holiday movies, like, period, regardless of holiday. It came out during a time, 1987, where, like, Hughes was in his prime, Martin was in his prime, and Candy was in his prime. And Candy would do good work after this. Like Uncle Buck, I would argue, in terms of Candy performances, is better than this. That's just my opinion, though. They would never, like, get to this quality. Like, I would argue Hughes would never get to this overall quality ever again. And I think, like, just in general, like, everything just lined up perfectly to make this just movie that, in a weird way, like, there's some stuff that has aged poorly, like certain things about transportation that have aged poorly, but largely everything else is pretty timeless, I would argue. And I don't want to, like suggest that they remake it. I don't think that, I mean, I think you could do something with a remake like this, but I don't think it would be the same. So it was really a sun, the moon, the planets, and all the stars coming together in perfect alignment to create, like, this, one of the best comedies of the 80s.
No, definitely. Like at the very least, best Thanksgiving movie, which is weird because we don't really get to see a lot of people eating. But I haven't seen enough Thanksgiving movies to tell. Definitely the most known, and I can appreciate the fact that that's besides the whole scene filled with the world fucking. You can watch this with the whole family, I guess, in a sense. You might have
Yeah,
to explain something after that scene, but it's not really. I've heard worse.
the
I'm pretty
movie's
sure I've heard
rated
worse.
R, and I think the worst scene just overall is the stuff with Grace, and then maybe the stuff in the bed, but otherwise it's fine. Like, if this movie came out today, it would be PG-13, easy.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, they would have to been only one fuck.
Oh,
That many
that's a good
fuckings gets you an R. That's
good
the
point, yeah.
issue there. That's why it's a rated movie. But the movie earns it because it's not really. Uh, I mean, it doesn't really have a lot of those, and the sequence before he says all that kind of justifies it. Like that was just like a terrible way to find out you don't really have a car. Then hey, there's no car, and now going back, getting his clothes all ripped up, and then the lady taking a long while to attend him, and then she's very happy, and then clearly he's not. Like as soon as he threw up the what's it called, the like the paper he needed at the very beginning of the scene. Oh, this is gonna end up badly, and then it goes so badly. And then when he gets to to that place, like oh, you can kind of tell. Like everybody kind of wants to do that every once in a while. If we didn't live in a civilized society, or we're stuck in that situation, I guess. Because I'm sure I've been situations where I'm very like I want to know, but I'm really not like that. I guess I'm trying not to be. See, this wakes up very bad stuff about me. I didn't really didn't want to relate to Neil Page, but you kind of do in a way. So when he does it, oh, okay, the lady didn't really have it coming, but sure, in a way, she does. I don't know. It's not for me to say.
Yeah, it's a situation by situation kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah,
But I passed it off to
uh,
all of you. What did you
right, sorry.
think of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Do you watch it every year, or let us know in the comments? We'd love to read what you have to say. Eric, thank you so much for joining me. I always love having you on the channel. Tell the people where they can find you and what you're up to.
Well, if you ever learn Spanish, you can catch me at Spoiler. I haven't uploaded a video in 3 years, which kind of sucks. I should get to that again. But if you do, or if I ever get to add English subtitles, you can watch those. I might do that just for the people in the community, like in the trivia community. Oh, I have this channel and I did pretty decent until I didn't. I stopped doing it. Sideways, so that you can find me wherever you can find Jacob, at your CWTs, at your Lights Out, at your ASATs, at your Multiplex, at your Why We Love Horror. A match of mine is going to show up in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure when, but soon enough, I guess. And yeah, whatever you can find Jacob, I'm mostly there, in a sense.
And we'll be defending our tag titles, I imagine, at some point. I don't think this year, because, I mean, the year's almost over, but I believe at the start of next year, depending on the schedule. But we'll be doing the defense here at some point in the near future, so stay tuned for that. And as far as this channel goes, Chris Mania is the next big thing coming to the channel. It's a series I retired last year because having to watch the Ron Howard Grinch movie and Mixed Nuts back to back just kind of broke me, so I needed to take a year off. But now the series is coming back, and thankfully most of my choices this year were very sound. So stay tuned for all of that. But for Eric, my name is Ryan Cam. You all have a happy Thanksgiving. We will see you in the next one. Y'all take care.